Welcome to Middale Roundup with Andy Collier, Athletic Director. How you doing this morning, Andy?
Tony, I'm doing good. It's that time of year.
That time of the year.
We are busy. Fall sports going on. It's hot. I'm supposed to say I'm keeping it 100. It's hot.
You keep it.
It's
It's
hot.
hot. It's hot.
It's hotter than it's been in a long time. But everything's going good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No. It's always good to maybe to do this show. We talk about all three Middale teams. What they got going on. This time of the year in the fall sports. You're going to talk about cross country, volleyball. You got football going on, and then you also got softball. I know all three teams is competing this year in softball, and you got a couple new head coaches, and so it's time to get it rocking and rolling. We talk about all three football teams about to start the season off. We'll kick off tonight in scrimmaging. So
this is and I don't mean to cut you off, but this is a huge year for Middale.
Yes, sir.
I'm right now. I'm telling you, we're really good. And that's just not football. We're good in most of our programs, and I feel really confident in that. Plus, it's our 80th year. Yes. 80th anniversary is this year. We'll have a couple of big events that we'll talk about next time we talk.
Yes, sir.
I know you're going to be there to broadcast.
Yes, sir.
So we have a big event coming for that, as well as a massive bond that we have to pass. It's over $470 million.
But tell me a little bit about this bond, Andy. What's it going to help? I mean, let the listeners know why it's good to go out and vote for this bond, because it's going to help the Middale schools in many other ways that they need to help.
No doubt. This is a place, once again, it's 80 years old.
Yes, sir.
And we have a lot of things that are 80 years old. And
time to upgrade.
And we're proud of that stuff. But at the same time, it's time that we kind of step in the right direction. We improve some facilities. We improve a lot of different things. And the biggest thing for us is safety. And this bond will allow every school to have a safety structure. From athletic side, it's going to we've talked about how beautiful Midwest City's football stadium was from what they did on the last bond. Mm-hmm. This bond will allow Del City and Carl Albert to catch up to that. We're hoping to get, which on the bond it says big boards, the digital screens, both in basketball and football.
That's nice. That's
very nice, and it helps out with advertising. It helps out being able to do a lot of different things. We're looking at softball and baseball. It's time we turf these facilities.
Yes, sir.
It's time that we improve locker room facilities for all athletes. Just catching up like that, and I think our biggest and pretty cool ticket item will be a indoor facility at all three sites. Well, that people think that's just athletics, but that facility can be used for community involvement, fine arts. It can be professional development, meeting spaces. I go on and on what that facility would be used for. But in this day and age, for safety reasons, with weather, with heat and heat illness and different stuff that we have to take care of compliance-wise, a facility like that is something that can help us all around.
And you said this one more time. It's going to be at all three facilities.
Yes, one facility per site.
That's amazing. To have that. Each school have their own. They ain't got to worry about it. So it's not going to be fair if Carl Albert has it and Del City did.
Right.
All three have theirs. So if it's snowing outside and they need to get practice in, all three coaches still can have practice.
No doubt, and it hits every sport. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Yeah. You would be able to use it. You'd have drop-down softball and baseball netting. Your basketball team could be in there to work out and get conditioning in.
Sure.
Volleyball as well. Golf could hit. I mean, I could tell you every sport and what they would do. Fine arts as well. Marching band could practice. Our color guards would be able to practice. ROTC, which is big in Middale.
Yes, sir.
So anyways, a lot of good stuff. I wanted to kind of give a shout out with that, because two big things, the 80th anniversary as well as the bond. So good things happening in Middale, but let's get started with some athletics.
Well, once again, all three Middale teams did really good last year. When you start talking about athletics in Middale, everybody loves the football. Carl Albert, Middle City, and Del City, all three teams, man. And I know you got to be tickled as an AD that, all three teams are still good this year. Carl Albert comes in as number one in 5A football. I know next year they're going to restructure some of the scheduling, but, as this year, all three are still top at 5A. I know if life was good, you like to have one 6A small, because I think if you put one of those teams 6A small, they're going to dominate at 6A small.
Well, I will tell you this. I think that what our district did by all three coming down to 5A is we made 5A better than 6A too.
Oh, big time.
And I think that just if you have a clue about athletics and you really look at that based on what teams are out there, 5A took a big step forward last year in really, and I mean this, not dogging anybody, but schedule wise, being competitive, I do think that 5A has now passed 6A too.
No.
And so you're right. As an AD, I used to all want to be the same. But as an AD now, I look and say, golly, maybe it'd be nice if somebody was 6A too.
Yeah, that's
But you're right. Everybody always talks about football.
Yes,
This is
sir.
Oklahoma. And that is our sport that draws a lot of attention.
Yes, sir.
But as you brought up earlier in the show, fall sports, with cross country, and I know you'll get into this, but cross country, volleyball, as well as softball, we've had lots of success in Mid-Del with those, and we're only continuing to improve in those sports as well.
Yeah. Like I said, Colorado comes in at number 1, in 5A, and they're coming off their 17th state championship, looking for number 18. But a bunch of guys returning, man. They got the OU commit, Xavier Robinson, just committed to OU. I ran for over 2,600 yards last year, 39 TDs. And then they add a new piece to the puzzle, quarterback moves in, Kevin Speary. He's another OU commit. So not only do they got a great running back, now they got 2 great quarterbacks and up-and-coming quarterbacks. So I just think, Coach Dunn and the coach staff, what they're doing over there is amazing. What they're doing, getting kids recruited. Cash Ferris is a young man that, yes, he plays football, but he's going to go off to Oklahoma State and be a pitcher for them. And that great program up there at Oklahoma State. So
and Cash will have offers to play quarterback too.
Yes, and I hear he's doing amazing things. I haven't got a chance to watch him play. He's a young man, lives 2 houses down from me. It's so funny. I was cutting my yard a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if he thought I was struggling trying to get the lawnmower up the curb or what. He goes, "Do I need to help you?" I said, "No, Cash, you're fine." And this is the type of kid this kid is, man. He's not, when he stopped by the house, and most kids would have went pouted that somebody moved in. It's all about competing.
Yeah.
And we all know, Andy, you played college quarterback, and you've coached, and you've been an offensive coordinator. Now you're AD, and, I played college ball, and, my kids play. It's all about competing, man. If you're not competing for a job and you think something's going to be handed to you, you're in the wrong type of business. And I think
I 100% agree, and I think that a situation like that, and you're going to see kind of this at all 3 sites.
Yes, sir.
We have a lot of competition at different positions, but I will tell you, if you're built on a culture and a climate, and I mean that, before you get to anything else, before you get to the offensive scheme, defensive scheme, or anything else, if you don't have a good foundation with a culture and climate, you don't have anything.
No.
And we preach that in athletics with all of our programs. And what that culture and climate allows at a place like Carl Albert, competition is healthy.
Yes.
It's not something that is going to separate a locker room. What it's going to do is it's going to bring people together that's going to make them better. And I've seen that with some of these moves like you've talked about, and it's been a healthy thing. I think that you can never have too much depth.
No.
And I think that right now there's spots on Carl Albert's team that I think, they need a little more depth. And then there's spots like you're talking about quarterback where I'm like, they got more depth than anybody in the state. So, anyways, speaking to your point, I think that it's a good thing. It can be a bad thing, but I believe it's a good thing in our district based on the culture and climate.
Sir. And like I said, Carl Albert, you still got Tristan Hayes. He's just a junior, right?
Yes.
He has over 20-some offers, and maybe more offers. Then you get another great young man, Marcus James, that plays tight end, outside linebacker, comes over from Bishop McGinnis. But Andy, I think the biggest focus part, and you know this more well than anybody, is the offensive line.
Yeah.
The offensive line, with Tanner Norman, Brock Johnson, Easton Collier, Easton Perkins, is it Emerson Williams?
Yes.
All these guys are returning starters on the O-line,
And Trayton Holland, I don't know if you
Trayton
said that.
Holland,
Trayton Holland's 3-year starter.
Trayton Holland, I'm sorry, I did miss him. But all these guys are returning starters on the offensive line. And me and you kind of talked about this the other night. When it's cold outside, what those guys want to do?
Run block.
Want to run block.
And
that's why you think this man ran for 2,600 yards,
a guy that was a skill guy.
Yes, sir.
I can tell you, you're only as good as the guys up front. Yep. And that's any business. We teach our kids, a CEO is only as good as the janitor,
Yes.
is only as good as the people underneath them. And those offensive linemen don't get a lot of credit.
No. That's why I want to give those guys a
But
shout
I
out.
can tell you, they're the engine that makes things go.
They do.
And they're hard workers. They're strong.
They're strong.
And they're very confident in what their skill is. And the thing about it is they're such a good group together. We're going to talk about the other programs.
Yeah.
And you're going to notice one common characteristic. I go to Midwest City, I got 4 of the 5 coming back.
Yeah.
At Dell City, I may have the best one in the state. A K-State offer.
Yeah.
And so...
Darren, yeah.
Yes, so I'm looking and I'm thinking, okay, right now what we have is we do have a lot of good skilled kids, but we have offensive linemen right now.
And a lot of teams struggle with that, though.
Yes,
finding guys that
it's
can
very
open
tough
up
to
holes
do
and
that.
can run block
And we
pass
have
block.
good offensive line coaches around here,
Yes,
so that's good.
Like I said, finishing up, Kyle Albert, like I said, you talk about all these seniors and juniors, but you got young guys coming up. I had a chance to coach some of these young men in the summertime. Doing 7-on-7. A young man you want to keep your eye on is going to be up and coming freshman Elijah Matthews. Guy can play receiver. Guy can play defensive back. He can play running back. Hero, I think, is another young man. I know you won't give your son much credit, but Andy Collier, up and coming, great quarterback. So think about Kyle Albert, man. Coach Dunn. He can sit back and relax a little bit because he do got some guys still coming up the pipeline, and that's what it's all about. That's all about a great program. You played at Midwest City in the '90s, and I made this statement the other day to my brother, and I got a chance to watch them practice the other day, and I said, and nobody takes offense. I said, watching this team is like watching the '90 Bombers, and that's a big statement, with Coach V and Verka and Huggins and Smith and Oliver and all those guys, that's how this staff is at Kyle Albert. Some of these guys can go off and be head coaches, but they stick around and be here because they love what they do. And that's what makes a program good. Not knocking the other programs because Coach Hall and Coach Jones has done a great job at Dell City and Hall at Midwest City, being contenders and fighting to get to a state championship. But it makes your job easier that, hey, I don't have to go around and worry about what my coaches are doing and what's going on in my programs. And that's in all your sports, too. We talk about cross country at Kyle Albert. Really big. The volleyball program. It's got.
Well, my Dell City cross country coach has about 4 rings. And so what you're saying, 100%.
Yes.
And once again, that goes back to you're only as good as who you got surrounding you.
That's it.
And I am so blessed that I feel like from head coaches to assistant coaches in this district, I think we're as good, if not better, than everybody else. We've got ladies and men that want to make these kids champions, but they also want to make them good husbands, wives, as well as mothers and fathers. And that's the main goal. But yes, going back to something you said, there's some young talent across the district.
Yes, sir.
The thing about the young talent, though, is this, and I stress this at home. Young talent doesn't mean anything if you don't buy in and do things right.
You got to still compete.
That's right. You compete, but you have to buy into the culture. You have to buy into what's right and wrong, and you have to be able to put others in front of yourself. And if these kids, those young kids with talent, do that, future's bright, things will never stop. If they become individuals, then
that's when you have problems.
You have problems. Yes, so we are blessed with young talent, great coaches, but that's a good point.
Softball, to get a new head coach, and Garrett Wages, this name, sister's, I'm sorry, not sister, aunt.
Mom's Angie.
Mom's
She's
Angie.
a counselor in the district.
Sister she's a great dancer, actress, whatever she is. But also, his uncle was a big-time baseball player for Midwest City Bombers. A.J. Hinch is coach for the Detroit Lions right now, and coach for
Detroit
the
Tigers.
I said Lions. Football's on my mind. Detroit Tigers, and then, also coach with the Houston
Astros.
I ain't a big baseball guy. You can see that. But I'm just saying, Gary Wade has been on, on the staff. Is will get the ladies Titans back where they need to be, man. And so I'm excited for him. Good young man. Comes from a great family, so good to see that.
And they've got this is kind of a year for them to rebuild.
Yeah.
I went and saw all 3 of our programs play this past week, and one thing I noticed about Carl Albert is I think they've got 3 sophomores and 2 freshmen starting. And here's the deal: you're going to take some lumps. Their schedule's tough. They're going to take some lumps, but they're going to be fine at the end of the year, and they're going to be really good in the future.
Yes,
So as long as those senior leaders that they have in Asha Moore and Kaylee Davis, as long as they can stay together and can keep this team together, the future is very bright. But Garrett's going to do a good job for us. He comes from a good background.
Yes.
And he's been here for years. He's coached baseball. He's coached Coach White back in the day. And Garrett's going to be just fine.
Yes, sir. Like I said, we're going to move over to Midwest City. Another great program. You know, Coach Hall, what he's done with the Bombers, you know, last year, winning district, you know. Was the all-state coach this year?
He was the all-state coach, won.
Yes, that's big time.
Good offseason. Yeah,
Yes,
really
sir.
good stuff.
And, you know, I know Coach Hall and myself and you also can say they finally lose DJ Irvin, a guy that's been, I feel like the kid's been there forever.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's off of UNLV now doing his thing in college. But, you know, the Bombers, they're always going to have great athletes. You know, Kenneth Colston was a receiver last year. He's going to move over and play quarterback. I've seen him taking some reps with Tom George.
Kenneth has worked way hard.
Yes.
He is a kid that, as you said, he was a backup quarterback and played some receiver, had a really productive year last year at the receiver position. And then this spring and summer really tried to really make his craft as perfect as it could be throwing the football. And his release, the touch that he has on the ball is extremely impressive. He can play at the next level. He is a kid that, in my opinion, is as cool and calm as they come, which is important for that position. But the one thing he has, goes back to this, he's got 4 or 5 offensive linemen coming back, including Jacob Brunson, who is one of the top in the state. He also has 3 running backs coming back that have totaled about 2,000 yards rushing. So Midwest City, just like anything else, is going to, or just like any other year, they're going to base things on the running game.
Yes, sir.
And so that's going to take some pressure off Kenneth. But they've got, Tony, I was counting, they've got, I think, 13 guys coming back from a team that was a district champion.
Mr. James beat Elgin and Elgin.
Beat Elgin out of Elgin. You know, had a disappointing playoff run.
Yes.
They really did.
I think the snow kind of got them.
It did, but at the end of the day, you know, they've got to see what they did wrong, and they've got to improve on that.
Fix it.
And I do believe that this year they're primed for another good run.
And, you know, like I said, you know, Midwest City's always going to have its, you know, that Bomber magic that me and you both played for. I understand that, you know, and their defense is going to be led by Aiden Johnson, younger brother Jacoby Johnson that played and went to play that.
He's at NEO right now.
NEO played that, started off at North Texas, and now he's taking another journey. But I think Aiden Johnson's going to be really good on that defense side of the ball. So Hall's going to have those guys coached up. The offensive coordinator, I think he's one of the best in the states that you guys have over from Midwest City. So I'm looking forward. I got to give a young lady a shout out. I've known this young lady. I coached her at T-ball. Is Addie Scott. She's playing for the Bombers softball team. Young.
Hey, they are 2-2 right now, and the 2 losses come from very good programs. That team is one of the most improved programs in our district. They have some senior leadership. They got a good young pitcher, and they're going to be 5A. And so I can promise you, Midwest City softball is going to make some
noise.
Make some noise.
Yeah. Addie's a good ball player. She really is. You know, you talk about Midwest City's volleyball. I know you know how they're doing, and then you know you talk about cross country. Like I said, cross country is one of those sports. You know, it's so fun. I can tell the story real quick. My daughter Olivia got a scholarship right to run track at UCO. But you know, if you run track at UCO,
you're gonna work out cross country.
You got to run cross country.
Yeah.
She didn't want no part of that. So cross country, you got to be tough though. You really do.
Especially in this heat. You know, next week. Carl Albert will have an invitational that they've had for many years. It's one of the biggest cross-country meets in the state. It's in the middle of the day. It's hot. It's the day of our Midwest City Carl Albert football game. Woo. All 3 programs will be there. We will learn a lot about our cross-country kids that day.
Make sure you drink plenty of water.
That's exactly right.
Stay
we will learn a lot. But I've seen all 3 of these teams working out constantly in this heat. And it's impressive. You know, it's impressive just for a kid to go out and put a commitment out there to play anything. When you're running for 2 hours straight, you have a lot of commitment.
No, you got to be committed.
Yes, and I think all 3 coaches have done a really good job. I mean, their past experience have told you that. Volleyball-wise, just so we can hit it just for a minute, Carl Albert's been a program volleyball-wise that has been in the state semis as well as finals
And they
over the
play a
last
tough
couple of
schedule.
years.
They play Mount St. Mary.
Oh, their schedule
Yes.
is extremely
Yes.
tough. They're young, so they're going to take some bumps and bruises early. Midwest City and Dell City are drastically improved, and Midwest City, I saw them this week, and they've got some good core seniors coming back.
Is the basketball player she playing?
It's always good to have basketball
I was gonna
players.
say, is Douglas playing
Yeah,
for it?
it's
Okay.
always good to have some basketball players playing volleyball.
Yes, sir. I was gonna say I know Douglas played. I think last year was her first year, and she had an incredible year. So it's good that she's out again, and she's starting to get some. I know we're not into basketball yet, but she's starting to get pick up some big time recruits.
But I'm
offers.
seeing the same type of philosophy at Dell City as well, and they have, compared to where they were last year. I went to watch them play Noble last week. It's just impressive. It's impressive to see these kids buy in, get better, not give up when you've had a bad year, and improve the way they've done. And that's coaching, but that's also kids.
Yes, sir.
So really impressive.
Big time, big time. We're gonna move on to Dell City. Dell City Eagles. They come in number 2 in 5A. So you got number 1 and you got number 2 in 5A, both in your backyard. Everybody is talking about that game already, like you're gonna play it tomorrow, Andy. Kyle Albert, Dell City for the state championship. I know you as AD, you got to say, hey man, we got to go play the other 13 games when we get to that game. But Dell City comes in, and Coach Jones has done a great job. He lost his offensive coordinator. Madonna goes off to Shawnee. Congratulations to him. Mm-hmm. Good luck to him. Another young guy that's going to be in the 5A program that you'll see. But Dell City, they pick up the offseason, they pick up 3 big-time kids that moved in. They call it blue chip out of Bishop McGinnis,
right.
River Warren,
right.
the quarterback. Then they get Rodney Fields and LaDamian Fields out of Southeast. And one thing about your job, Andy, and it makes why you won the top athletic director. I don't know if they give award at the end of the year, but you're so into like, hey man, make sure everything's right.
Oh yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you don't want no kid to lose any eligibility, and then the parents upset. So that's why I love you, what you do, because I've known you for many years, but you're all about the book. It's not that, hey, we're going to try to slide this one in. And you make sure every kid that comes into your program, they're moved, they done the right thing, and they stay doing the right thing. And
right.
So I'll give you a big shout out for that, because, I think we see it so many days that and kids act like they're going to move. I know I had to move when we brought my kid to a different school, So
well, it's a testament to Coach Jones and Dell City.
Yeah, yes, sir.
It's a testament to Coach Hall and his program at Midwest City. It's a testament to Mike and his program at Carl Albert. If kids want to physically move into your district, there's nothing wrong with that. It means you're doing something right.
Doing something right.
But yes, we're going to do it by the book.
Yes, sir.
Because that's our job, and that protects the integrity of the whole game. But I will say this, my job is perfect because I get to spend most afternoons going by practices,
yes,
and a lot of times I don't get down there on the field. I'll sneak off and maybe be in my car or somewhere else and watch and break stuff down. River Warren is good. I've seen over the last 2 years him play Carl Albert and put up massive stats, and really honestly, he's taken possessions and just driven the ball downfield on Carl Albert.
Yes, sir.
Carl
I watched
Albert,
it last year.
Now, they didn't stop Carl Albert.
Yes, sir.
But River Warren has done his job every time he's played Carl Albert. And I will tell you, watching him throw the football, it's fun to watch. As an ex-quarterback, because it comes out of his hand different. We have good quarterbacks across the district, and they all are studs.
Yeah.
They all have extreme talents and this and that. One thing I think River Warren does is when he throws the ball, it's the most catchable ball I've seen in a long time. And it's coming quick, but it's soft. It's a different look, and that's a gift. You can't teach that. And I watch him throw the ball, and there is something to that that ball. It's a catchable ball. I don't know if you've noticed that. But it is true. There's truth to it.
No, it's funny you said it, because you look at a lot of receivers and you look at, they're like, oh man, this guy. I'll tell you right now, when I was a sophomore and Gunny was a junior, and he was throwing the ball to me, and I used to have AJ Hinch throw me the ball, and they throw 2 different balls.
Yeah.
AJ threw a real softball, Gunny threw a fastball.
And it gets there about the same time.
But it hurts.
I like to compare it kind of sometimes to a pitcher. You can have a pitcher that throws 91, and then another one that throws 91. But to a batter, one may look like it's coming harder than the other.
Yes, sir.
And River Warren throws a really catchable ball. You know, Del City is bringing back, my goodness, they're bringing back some stud athletes.
Oh, yeah.
They've got, you know, in a couple, like you talked about, the move-ins. The tailback going to Oklahoma State,
Yeah.
he's special. We saw that
Rodney
last year.
Fields,
Rodney
yeah.
Fields. We saw that last year. But the things he can do with the ball, whether it's third down coming out of the backfield or first and second down running in between tackle or outside, you know, he's very special. It's a good pickup for Oklahoma State.
Yes, sir.
You look at their defense, Del City's always going to fly to the ball because that's what Robert's going to preach. Defense first, defense wins championships, and that's not going to change. So I think the one thing that always has scared me about Del City that I do think the other two schools have this year, and it's kind of crazy to say, but Del City lost one of the best kickers in the state.
It's funny you say that because I love that kid.
Oh, my gosh.
That kid was automatic. I mean, I think it was the Quita game or the McAllister game. He has to go down and kick a field goal to tie the game and send it in overtime.
Yeah.
And he does it. They call, I think it's a McAllister.
They call timeout, try to ice him and this
twice.
and that. Yeah. And the thing that I think that he did last year that was so important was he also got a lot of touchbacks.
Yes, he did.
You know, in this day and age, the return game is so important, and it can get you. It changes momentum. It changes field.
That's it.
And when you can put the ball in the end zone and put a touchback, you're always going to have an advantage of defense, and that's what he allowed them to do. So I'll be interested to see what Coach Jones does with the kicking game. But my goodness, if you look, you talk about bless. You look at the Daily Oklahoman's top 30, and Del City has 4.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, we even got into that. I mean, you look at, you bring in the Damon Fields, you bring in Rodney Fields. I mean, they're cousins. But what Del City's done, you move Aaron Carter from, not playing running back full time, playing a part time now, but he's going to be able to settle on the defensive side of the ball. You move. I mean, this guy was ranked top 3. Braylon Adamas was top 3 running back in 5A. Mm-hmm. You move him from running back to now slot receiver, so you got so many weapons. But then you talk about their offensive line. The younger brother of
Nigel's little
brother Darius Thomas. What he's done. He's moved from playing guard to center now. It just kind of tells you what Robert's got this year. Then you talk about Rickler Holmes. I mean, Robert.
So I do want to say this because I'm gonna get some credit for this. I'm gonna be vindicated. I told Robert.
Rickler Holmes.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
I told Robert. I said, I think I'm witnessing what may go down as one of the best Mid-Dale football players of all time. He's like, who are you talking about? I said, Rickler Holmes. Here's the deal about him. He could play running back. He could play linebacker. I'm sure he could play strong safety. But the thing about him is what he does and who he is off the field, in the classroom, the way he presents himself, how he carries himself, how he communicates with adults, it's unreal.
Unreal.
And then you throw in the fact that he is that gifted at that young age. The sky's the limit for that kid. Not that I'm putting down any other athlete.
No.
But
you said this though.
This kid, keep an eye on this because I promise when it's all said and done, this kid will be extremely special.
That's big time.
His mom and dad have done a really good job with him, and Coach Jones has too, and that coaching staff. But that kid is different, and he's going to be fun to watch the next 3 years.
I tell people all the time, running back is kind of like tires on a car. You don't want to wear them down too much. And Robert is blessed to have this many kids, this many young men that can run the ball for him. You talk about Aaron Carter. I think Aaron Carter is one of the most underrated young men in the state as far as his physique. If you look at this guy, he's D1 body, and I think he's going to go out and open some eyes and let people know who I am because he's not getting big-time recruits, but he will because that's the thing about people realize sometimes these recruits come late and you don't know what's going to happen with the transfer portal, who they need, what they don't need. But I think Aaron Carter is going to be one of those kids at the end are going to come signing day, Middle City, Del City, in Colorado. They're going to have 7, 8 guys sitting up there signing D1 offers. Yeah. So that's pretty good. But you talk about the defensive side of the ball, Jarvis and Taven Johnson, will lead the way up front on the edges. And then, I think this is one of Robert's best secondaries he's had in a while. You look at Turner, Fields, McAllister's a kid that I love. I think he's just a real great athlete. I think that family just really athletic to McAllister's.
Right.
And then you talk about Adam again. Like I said, moving from safety, he's going to play some safety this year, and also corner. Then you got a Hillshaw that's also going to help them in the back in the secondary. So I think Dell City, Middle City, and Carl Albert, all three. It's a good thing to have. Only one can win the gold ball, but
Right.
I think all three teams are going to be very, very well respected out of the Mid-Dell area. Something that you can smile about, be glad about. But at the end of the day, only one can win. But I think you're going to see some great football here in the Mid-Dell area, though.
I think you will, and you go from Carl Albert, Coach Cade in Midwest City, and then obviously Charvis Kelly at Dell City. The secondary these guys are going to put on the field it is extremely impressive.
It's impressive.
And a lot of them have a lot of experience coming back at all three sites. So I am lucky. We are blessed, but more than anything, I'm lucky because we do it the right way.
You do it.
Our coaches preach discipline. They preach hard work. And at the end of the day, all these kids are going to go be something, and that's what we want them to be. And they're probably going to be a professional in something other than football. And so as long as they're doing things right, you can win a lot of football games, but you're also doing things right to get them ready for the real world.
Like I said, with their cross-country program, you talk about the volleyball, softball coach is Aaron Graber.
Yeah.
His third year at Dell City.
Mm-hmm.
And Dell City and Middle City, I know Carl Albert's girls softball has always been pretty good, but these two other programs is getting better as you speak. Each year they're doing a better job. And like you said, you talk about that.
And one of the reasons why is because I know that both schools at Carl Albert, at Midwest City and Dell City, their coaches, they put a lot of time and effort into this summer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They taught these girls how to lift weights. They brought them into Summer Pride. They did things with them that I think that we got back to the basics. In this day and age in softball and baseball, I always say this: if you can play small ball, if you got some athleticism, if you can put the ball in play, kids this day and age like to hit home runs.
Yes, sir.
Girls and boys just like to strike people out. So if you can put the ball in play, you're putting pressure on a defense. You're forcing them to try to make a throw from third to first. And they don't get a lot of reps like that. And so I think that's what we're doing a really good job in Mid-Dell is putting a system out there to get on the base path and make people make mistakes.
Make mistakes.
Yeah.
If you're not on the bases, you can't
That's right.
make mistakes. But Andy, like I said, man, that's all three teams that you have here in the Mid-Dell, man. Like I said,
I do before, since we've talked about this, I kind of want to give a little update about the OSSA.
Yes. Let's do that.
All right?
No. We got to know. You got to educate us. I don't know all the rules. Rules change every year. So yes, I would love to know what's going on.
Well, rules have changed a little bit. I think we talked about this later part of last year that this was possible, but Rule 14 has changed, and that is the private versus public school rule where, based on success, a private school would always move up a class if they've had success for a certain amount of years.
Yes, sir.
They've adopted another part of that to where that same success can move somebody up 2 classes. And so what that did was, you're looking at next year, does it affect Mid-Dell? Let's just take football, for example. McGinnis is going to go up to 6A2. They'll play 5A this year, but next year will be 6A2. And based on that, this summer, our coaches came together in Tulsa, and they had to redistrict. And so Midwest City, based on ADM, based on McGinnis going up, Midwest City is 5A in every sport. And so we once again next year will have football being 5A.
Yes,
so they've
sir.
redistricted that. As far as the other sports go, that went into effect immediately. And so, I know Midwest City has been 5A in football and 6A in everything else over the last 2 years, but starting right now, Midwest City will be 5A in this year in basketball and baseball and everything else.
So when it comes to basketball season,
Midwest City will be 5A.
Okay.
And so we've had this blessing and curse in football, and so we're going to be having this talk in basketball
Yes,
too,
sir.
because
Yes, sir.
we're going to have 6 really good programs.
Real quick, let's talk
Playing.
about that real quick. Like I said, we do get you guys. Midwest City gets a new basketball coach. That's
Torrey
that's-
Noel.
That played at. They played Midwest City.
Oh yeah, he's a good point guard.
Played at Midwest City.
Ended up playing at Lamar.
It's okay. Young man, I know he left for a year and came back. We got him back home, so it's good to have him back home. Welcome back. Then I think Roy Henderson will be one of the stars for them this year. Got a chance to see him a lot over the summer. My daughter and his sister played together, so I think Roy is a young man, very quiet young man. Can shoot the lights out of the ball. Hope he can find a school that can pick him up. But a really, really good young man. I think the kids in the gym all the time.
Right.
So it's good to see. It's so funny because I know we're not basketball. I get excited about basketball because I learn about basketball more because my daughter plays it. But I tell you, Carl Albert's going to be salty. Coach Lenny's coming off a state champion in Mill City. Get a new coach. So
it goes back into what I said, man. With football.
Yes, sir.
Last year, you just take basketball, for example, at the 5A level, and we had boy program-wise, we had a double overtime game to decide the state championship.
Yes, sir.
It was 2 teams in our district. Now Midwest City comes down.
Yeah.
And you look at that from a boys' standpoint, and now you look at that from the girls' standpoint.
And all 3 girls programs.
And Booker T comes down too.
Yeah.
And so with Booker T, Midwest City coming down, once again, 5A is
loaded.
Just loaded again.
It's loaded.
And it's going to be like that, I think, in most every sport because ADM, which is your classification based on numbers.
Yes, sir.
Somebody asked me the other day, well, is everybody just leaving Midwest City? Absolutely not.
No.
Midwest City's numbers are actually larger than what they have been. The difference is, place like Piedmont, their numbers are skyrocketing because they're not landlocked.
Oh, yeah.
And so Piedmont's got over 1,400 kids now, and it will be 1,600 in 2 years. And so now, starting this year in every other sport, starting next year in football, Piedmont will now be a 6A team, and they've taken Midwest City spot. It's not because Midwest City's gotten smaller.
Yes, sir.
It's because other places have outgrown them based on land. And so we are excited. I wanted to give an update on that just because I think people have asked me recently, well, what's it going to be like with every other sport? And they don't really understand the reason why football, baseball, softball, those are 2-year basically commitments because people district, and you district for 2 years.
Yeah.
The non-district sports, it's year to year, and we know if they're 5A and 6A based on August numbers. Basketball now has gone to districts. So starting this year, basketball, it was approved. They're going to play districts like football.
Like football. So they'll play each team twice then?
That's right.
Home and away?
That's right.
Okay.
And so they will be in districts, and Midwest City, based on numbers, they went down and they district for 5A for the next 2 years. So I just wanted to give an overview of that and kind of where we were classification with our sports.
Well, Andy, like I said, man, I know you're rocking and rolling. Season just starting. I know you got a couple scrimmages. Season kicks off next week. You got Dell City at Choctaw. Then you got Carl Albert playing Coweta at home.
I think me and you have discussed every few weeks getting together just to give an update.
Yeah, update. And maybe bring a couple players and coaches
maybe give coaches or players an opportunity to showcase them. So I will kind of give you an update schedule-wise.
Yes, sir.
We've got a big cross-country meet next week. All 3 programs will be a part of. We have a volleyball tournament at Carl Albert that we have our programs from all over the district that will be involved in that starting tomorrow. You move on to softball. We're going to have 2 games a week, and it's going to start going quick. Then you move to football, and I will tell you, we got tonight, Carl Albert is hosting a scrimmage where they have 6 teams. Dell City goes to more. Midwest City's hosting 2 teams. And then it's game time. By the time this show airs, it's going to be game time.
Game time.
Game week, game preparation, 2 big games. Choctaw will host Dell City. Dell City last year, I was looking back at that game. Dell City put it on them for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah.
And I think they got some. I personally believe they got conservative.
Yeah.
And that conservative allowed a great player like Still Wassel, which we've talked about, get in a rhythm, bring them back quick, and it came down to a final possession. Dell City had a great stop at the end of the game.
A couple great stops.
Yeah, a couple of great stops to end that game. So I think Dell City now going to Choctaw is going to be a great game next week. Then you got Midwest City off. They won't be playing week 0 next week.
They'll be in the stands
They will be in the stands.
At the Carl Albert Coweta game.
Well, I'm sure they'll be at the Carl Albert Coweta game, and some other ones will be at Choctaw Dell City because
Yes,
that's
sir.
their first 2 opponents.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I will say this about Carl Albert Coweta. Carl Albert had a lot of expectations going into last year,
Yes, sir.
and Coweta rolled them. I think Coweta, there was a point in the game where Coweta was up by 3 touchdowns. And so it'll be interesting to see Coweta come to Carl Albert this year. Coweta was a really good football team. They've got some good pieces coming back. I've seen that roster.
They've lost
some good ones.
Lost my man Mason Ford.
But they're not scared of Carl Albert.
No.
They've done it before. They've beat them. They played them 2 years ago in the quarterfinals, and it was a 14-7 game. And so I think that should be a good game. And then fast forward the following week, you've got Midwest City going to Carl Albert going to Midwest City, and Booker T going to Dale City. So we're going to have 2 games the week 1, and then week 2 you have Midwest City going to Dale City, and then you've got what some say will be one of the better games of the year. You got Carl Albert traveling to Muskogee. So that leads us into the first really 3 weeks, and that leads us into almost district play.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, we will be in the paper, we'll be in the news, because we're going to have about 4 weeks of some of the best games in the state.
Yes, sir.
It's a fun time.
It's a good time. I'm excited, man. We get to do this show. Like I said, it's when we can get together and do the Middale Roundup. It's always a good what's going on. People need to get out and take care of the bond issue.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest things. Help the Middale programs. Everybody else is getting around them.
It's not just the Middale program. It's a community deal. You make this stuff the way it's supposed to be. Everybody benefits from it.
And like you said, it's been what, 80?
80 years, man. This is the 80th year. Yeah. And we're still, I look back how good all 3 programs were in the 70s and 80s. They're still as good.
God, you starting to tell my age, Andy. You can't do that. I was around in the 90s, It's so funny, Andy, before we get out of here, we both were real good athletes back in our younger days, and our kids probably look at us now and be like, Dad, was you really an athlete? Because Zoe tells me all the time, I go chase a basketball for it, and she's just like, you was an athlete? Maybe I was at one point in time, I promise you. And this man right here was a great athlete, a great quarterback, baseball, football, whatever he wanted to do, he was good at it, though. So, well, Andy, man, I really appreciate you. You let me do the show with you. But it's also good to go talk about some of the great programs that we have right here in Middale, though.
Before we leave, I got to put this plug in. Safety first. We're doing some different things this year at these games.
Yes, sir.
Clear bag policy. And
good. I'm glad you said it. My wife complains about
get
that.
a clear bag. And here's what I told somebody yesterday. Somebody called and said, I just don't understand. I said, here's the deal. I can promise you in Medill, because I got the numbers to back it up. We're going to play in state championships.
Yes, sir.
And when you get to December,
you got to have a clear bag.
You got to have a clear bag.
So you might as well get one now.
So we're going to get used to it now. We're going to get used to it now.
Good answer.
We're going to have at our home football and home basketball games, we're going to have these open gate systems that you walk through, just like you do at the state fair, just like you do in an OU game, just like you do in a UCO football game. Once again, why? We're going to be proactive. We're going to take care of our fans. Someone say, well, why just those 2? Well, because right now this is a pilot year. Right now we're doing that to see how this year goes, and those are our most crowded games, and so that's where we're going to do it. So I ask help from everybody that's watching this. Don't complain about it. Just understand we're doing it for you. We're doing it for safety. The clear bag thing last year, we got really good at it, and so I just want to make sure that everybody starts preparing for that, because it is important, and in this day and age, you can never be too safe, and we want to take care of our people.
That's it. We want to make it the environment fun.
So tell your wife to go get a clear bag.
She's going to get a clear bag.
I've already told my wife.
Just to get a clear bag. But Andy, like I said, anything else before we wrap this up?
We're good, man. I look forward to doing this every few weeks just to catch up.
And like I said, I really want to bring some of the volleyball girls on, the cross country. Sometimes, we talk about them, but we don't get to see them and know who they are. So I would love to bring some of them on the show and do a quick segment with us and get to know them, because, like I said, everybody loves football.
Yeah.
But, hey, let's give all the
there's a lot of kids working hard right now.
That's it. Really, really hard. Well, folks, we appreciate you watching another great episode of Middale Roundup with Mr. Andy Collier, the AD, that does a great job. And I'm always going to tell him now, I know he's going to give me a hard time, but he does. He does it by the rules. So thank you, and we'll catch you next time.